Welcome
Welcome
to Modern Mind,
Ancient
Book,
where
we together explore one of the most important books in human history. Nick, welcome to another Modern Mind, Ancient Book.
Glad to be here.
Yeah. We've got kind of an odd one.
It's going to be interesting, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, everything that we've talked about up until this point has had a focus on theology.
Right.
Historicity. People, places, things. Cultural stuff. How God interacted with those people during those things. But this is about getting married.
There's not really a different way to say that. I mean, this is when a man loves a woman.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. And so this is a great example of the wisdom writings or the Chitubim, because it's just different, right? Now, Proverbs is also a wisdom writing. Ruth, actually, is a writing.
Yep.
But these are one of the ones that stand out in the Bible as something that is odd. But it's kind of cool because it's Shlomo, it's Solomon, right? And so you get this guy who his father had to go through much difficulty. But when you get to Solomon, he's got peace. He has wealth. He has everything that's good. And so now, it's like the Bible has completely slowed down in its storytelling. In most of the other stuff that we cover, it might cover a lifetime, but this is 1 year. And it's about the way a man feels toward a woman.
Right. I'm just smiling at you because I don't have much to add. That's exactly what it is. And it's funny because he's in such a comfortable state that this is what he had to write about. It's far removed, when we were talking about Psalms and how many of them were, my enemies are all coming against me. I'm in the heat of battle. I'm about to die. Lord, deliver me. And then it's like, hey, she's pretty cute.
Yeah.
It's a different...
I want to climb her mountains.
Yeah.
And shake her tree.
That's yep.
So before we get too far in the weeds here, the Hebrew title for this one is Shir HaShirim. Shir HaShirim. And it's the Song of Songs. I've got a rubber ring now, or whatever these are, but my original wedding ring had Ani Ladoli Vidoli Li, which is I am my beloved's and my beloved is mine, from Songs of Solomon. So, a good Jewish boy would probably do something like that.
Yeah.
And I had a wonderful ring that actually I got straight from Israel.
Wow.
Turns out the workmanship wasn't that great, but I will eventually get it repaired.
Oh man.
It's white gold, and in the inside of it has the Hebrew inscription, I am my beloved and my beloved is mine.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah, it's a beautiful ring, but it kind of broke. The welds of the yellow gold kind of came undone.
Oh, okay.
And the center started kind of opening up, and it would catch on stuff. So it's in the safe, but yeah, it's from this. And it's interesting because in other books we can go on, saying David is probably the preeminent theologian, but in this one we can just say he was in love, and he was really, really interested in getting married and consummating the marriage.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's safe to say that for sure. After going on for verses and verses about how much he didn't want to wait. Yeah.
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 Yeah, it's quite interesting. So, the Greek title is Asma Asmaton, and it has the same meaning. It's the Song of Solomon. So, the Song of Songs. So, it's an emphasis on the author. This is all about the way Solomon felt.
Right.
So, the authorship's pretty plain. the opening verse identifies Solomon as the author of the song. It's 1:1. He's mentioned 7 other times in the book. He definitely, it says here he had the financial capacity to import luxurious goods for the wedding.
Right.
They had a very amazing wedding. And the court of women, and then he had many wives and concubines.
Right.
Yeah,
all of the factors add up that even if it hadn't said it was Solomon, who else could it be?
Who else could it be?
Yeah.
But this is about his first wedding. And it's about a 1-year period when he was betrothed to a Shulamite woman. So this was written during his early years. And it's interesting because when we get to the next work that's in line, and it was written during his later years,
yeah,
you can see the journey that men take, really.
Right.
Right?
His whole attitude was different.
His whole attitude is different.
Yeah.
And the thing is like, this is true. So, I mean, think back to, you're 16, 17, 18 years old. Women seem really, really important. And, I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm married and I love my wife, and I have consummated that, and we love our children, and it's a wonderful place to be, but it's not the same sort of obsession.
Right.
That is present in this particular work, right? It's a real desire to consummate the marriage.
Yeah.
And it's just so out of place. I can't get over
it. Is. It
how out of place
seems
this book
incongruous
is.
with
before
and after. It's
So a date for this is about 965 BC to 960 BC. Pretty old book.
Fair.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say that's pretty old.
And during Israel's greatest period ever, so to date.
Right. So not only great for Solomon personally, but like the
nation itself was at its prime.
Yeah.
And like you said, there's nothing in here that indicates he was afraid of any people outside, but that he just was free to focus on love.
Mm-hmm.
Very weird for the Bible.
Right. Where else would you find that? There's always something. If it's not there, it's lurking.
Yeah.
Sometimes brought on by the, whoever it's speaking about, it's their own action. Sometimes it's outside. But very rarely do you see anyone in the Bible being like, no, everything's cool right now. I'm just going to do my thing.
I'm just going to fall in love.
Yeah.
Americans have had that benefit for quite some years.
Yes, absolutely. And as much as we can look around and see some craziness going on, I still like to remind people we have it better than the kings of old. Like, our lives are so much easier. We get freedom to
essentially this is a song, and you can turn on. I think less these days. I think people are becoming more skeptical, but in the past, in great and prosperous nations like Israel was at this time, and in our nation at one point was much more prosperous and healthier. We had good love songs on the radio. Absolutely.
And you could still find them once in a while. I think we've actually been in this comfortable zone for so long that we've gone too far in the direction, and now it's gone from something that you could say was pure in this instance, and it's too easy, it's too available, and you gotta get a little bit shocking to differentiate from the love songs that you were talking about earlier, that were the good love songs.
Yeah, and this book, it is maybe not for the younger audience.
Sure.
Perhaps.
Yeah.
But
I'd skip it with the kids group, but
yeah.
Yeah.
If a man were to maybe study this with his wife and take the time, because it is, a 2024, so it's a 2020 60 some odd year book, right? So it's old, and a lot of the references outside of an agrarian or a people group that understand animal husbandry, maybe that live in the mountains,
right?
Things like that. A lot of the language is going to be a little antiquated or a little bit difficult to understand.
Oh, absolutely. There's some of the lines that translate really well to us, and some of them that you have to understand from this perspective, or it might be a little insulting when he means it as such a beautiful thing.
Your hair is like that of goats or something.
Right,
so,
right. Don't worry, I mean a really pretty goat. And then that's suspicious, so,
But you're not wrong. So, the recipients in this, I did not, I didn't really appreciate necessarily the recipients in this one, as much as it was the people of Israel, and it's to celebrate his marriage, his upcoming marriage, right? So the recipients would be the Israelites during this time, right? It's safe to say that in his struggle to wait, he spent some time writing this document and probably singing this song, right? And so the people of Israel in 965 to 960 BC, they were probably aware of this and celebrating with him. The marriage itself was a political alliance and an economic relationship. Later on, he did end up having, I think, 140 wives, and but the Shulamite woman was the first love, the most interesting to any man, I would say, right? Yeah, the one you fall the deepest for. So I think this needs to be read imagining yourself in what to you is the greatest nation on earth 2,060 years ago, living under the wisest king anybody's ever met or known in your world, and celebrating the prosperity, the hard-fought and won prosperity that was caused by David, Solomon's father.
Right.
And so now there's much. You as a nation, your nation, has experienced unprecedented peace, and you're looking forward to a great and wonderful, highly extravagant wedding. That would be how this is to be read and understood. Or you could read and understand it from Solomon's perspective.
Sure.
From one yearning for to have and make children and fulfill the commandment to go out and multiply and subdue the earth as a good Jew, right?
Right.
To consummate that marriage legally, in the proper bed at the proper time. It has a lot of really great lessons for modern listeners particularly, because we're not super good at waiting.
No, that is not part of our culture for sure.
Yeah.
Not at all.
But in this culture, that's a very real part of it. And you see sort of the fanaticism that a man goes through when you're ready to make and have children and settle down and things like that. You know, love drives a guy crazy.
Yeah.
And it's all throughout the animal kingdom. I mean, when we go, I haven't hunted in a number of years, but when you get ready and the bucks are in rut, they're not doing their normal routines and they're pretty easy to shoot.
Right.
Because they're in love.
They're on their minds for the does. Yeah.
They're out there fighting and just making ruckus in the woods and scraping stuff, and you can find them. Yep. So that's what men do too. It's what we all do. We chase, and once we chase, we take, and once we take, we should accept responsibility for that. And so I would say that that's one of the factors in the old world that has been lost more so today. This book is all about consummating the marriage to, bring more people into the world and raise them up in the ways of God. So in that, there is still a fair amount of theological consideration in this book. It's in the Bible, obviously. Right. But it does express a different worldview, one that's probably more healthy than most of what you would find today in love poems or songs or whatever.
Right. I don't think that that's something that we'd have to tiptoe around. I mean, if you see what this sort of perspective leads to, and then what our culture of more disposable relationships, and not placing that importance, or even acknowledging a marriage as, yes, it is that connection between the man and the woman that hopefully that they both chase after, but it is meant for more than just that. And that was obviously in mind when Solomon was writing this, like you said. The only thing that I might add is if it was a whole year, no wonder this was a Song of Songs. Like if you spend a whole year writing a song, it better be good, man. Like,
That'd be a great song. Hey, recorded for all time, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe you should write some music to this and try to make it happen.
Oh, no. Where am I going to play it? I'm going to have to go out when
it'd be like an hour-long song.
And everybody would be mad because I'd be chasing the bucks away.
Yeah.
Out in the woods because no one else is going to listen to this. All right.
So, the argument of this song is the exercise of godly love brings union, communion, and satisfaction to a man and woman. We didn't mention it, but the woman's perspective is also present in this song. Yeah. And that really is a good thing. I would say the song is highly idealized, right? It was definitely like a national celebration kind of writing.
Right.
It was written to a nation for a reason. And, theologically, God created both man and woman. He took woman from the man to give the man a suitable helper. Someone to be a part of his life and to also provide the ability to keep the commandment of be fruitful, multiply, and subdue the earth. So, marriage itself is highly theological.
Right.
From the Bible's perspective. It's also very prophetic from the Bible's perspective. And so, saying those things, I can understand why the drive to come together would be present in the Bible.
Yeah, absolutely.
And in this sort of idealized, very fanciful, almost fanatical approach of just needing each other. So looking forward to that moment. Because that honestly is what we do. We just don't often express it so much, I guess, in this contextualized form, in a written form like this.
Yeah, I mean, and even when people do, it usually doesn't come out like this. I'm just thinking of, like, Meatloaf, I Would Do Anything for Love. Like, the woman's in there, too, but it's not as good of a song, I guess.
Yeah.
Probably a better piano riff, but Solomon had the better song.
So it does take a little study, though, to understand the language in this. It's not necessarily a book you could just open up and read it and really get all the motif, how the repeating themes in it, what some of the sayings really mean,
right?
How they would have been perceived by the original author and audience.
Sure, and their understanding and culture.
Yeah, at that time.
And even just from a poetry standpoint, like you said, with the repetition and stuff, it's almost like the only thing I could compare it to, and it's still not perfect, would be like a rock opera where they have it in multiple stages and stuff comes back.
Yeah.
I'm sure obviously it didn't sound anything like that, but the layout is there's so much there that you could spend a long time dissecting just the art, let alone the theology and the relationship aspect.
Yeah. Yeah, we're saying all this because it really is worth taking the time to study it.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a great book. It's an interesting thing. And honestly, if you took the time to really dissect it, you could present it to the younger teenagers.
Yeah.
You just have to take, I guess, more of the application and the principles.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. That's what I was going to say. It's not bad at all for them to understand the purpose, especially. It's, it's like, even if this is not available to you right now, but here's ideally how it should go and why it is this way.
Yeah.
And what you're gonna feel, So
yeah, because you are gonna feel that way.
Yeah.
Yeah. Every man's gonna feel that way about a woman, and every woman is gonna feel that way about a man. Very rare exception. It takes a really special person not to be driven by the need to procreate, essentially. So the purpose of this, is to encourage men and women to celebrate the beauty and sanctity of godly love on their betrothal, their wedding, and their marriage. Because it really is something to be yearned for, and to work hard toward, and to very carefully find the one that you feel like you can spend the rest of your life with. We should. We got to. A lot of what we miss, I think, in today in terms of just the honor-shame culture that we do not exist in is present in this. Because, not that he would, practice fealty toward one woman, but that you would be married, and in this case for not only political reasons, but just for prosperity in general. But that you would get married for a purpose more than just the desire to have sex.
Yeah.
But that desire is also very real and worth celebrating.
Oh, it's not excluded, that's for sure.
No, it's definitely not excluded. So, the key verse in this one is verse 7, chapter 7, verse 10. It said, I am my beloved's, and his desire is for me. Some of the themes are godly love, sexual love, marital desires and passion, separation and union, being separated and longing to be back together. Just feeling as if that person is your beloved, right. Yours personally. Daughters of Jerusalem, meaning, just women in the country, women of that country, of Israel, and how they are to be loved and sought after, and that their place is with a man, I guess. And then, obviously the marriage between the Shulamite woman and Solomon himself. It's not a super, super long book. It's slightly complicated, and there's a back and forth. There's definitely a structure to this that is worth learning about and noting. You got anything else to add here?
I think we covered it. I mean, that is pretty thorough. And no, it's not a long book, but it's a long song.
Yeah, it is a very long song.
It's got a lot of pieces, and it's very well organized.
What do you think it was played on? The harp and the wind instruments and stringed instruments and...
I think it depends, and I'm not even trying to be funny here, on the mood. There's certain parts where I feel like, because he had access to everything, maybe some percussion when your heart's beating fast, maybe some stringed instruments when it's just, oh, she's so beautiful and lovely and that more pure thing. If he had a whole year to write this and then to compose the music, I'm imagining something that would put Bohemian Rhapsody to shame. It's got all these different pieces. At least that's how I would do it. I don't,
Yeah. I would imagine that sounds about right? Some percussion for the heartbeat. Some dramatic music for the love moments, and
maybe a flute solo,
Thank you for joining us.
My pleasure.
Come back soon.
Thank you for joining us for Modern Mind, Ancient Book. We hope that the time spent with us was valuable for you. It certainly was for us. Like Isabella said, please come back soon.